You could tell by the end of that test as well, Bumrah, before he was coming out to bat, that second innings, he was just like pissed out.
What else can he do?
He was just like, "What? How am I padding up right now?"
He's literally doing everything. I mean, the man is single-handedly making India look like a elite team.
Oh yeah, he's got like 30 plus wickets this test match,
averaging
like 12 or something.
Yeah, he's averaging 19 for his career. I think he's got the lowest average for any player who's got 200 plus wickets.
That's insane.
At any bowler in history, which is, I mean, you can he's mounting a case that he could be one of the greatest bowlers of all time.
Yeah.
Interesting debate.
I mean, well, that was a fucking classic test match there.
Should we start with that?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's start with it.
Is Jasprit Bumrah one of the greatest bowlers of all time? What do you say?
I say, who else can top that, to be honest?
We're going to be... Disclaimer, we're currently in the midst of probably his greatest ever series. So it's always easy to heap the praise on someone when it's currently happening.
30 plus wickets. What did we say?
12 average.
Averaging 12 this series, but 19
across his career. Which is the best average for anyone who's got above 200 test wickets in the history of bowling.
How can you debate against that sort of segment?
Yeah. And we think of the legends, test match legends who've gotten over 200 wickets. I mean, all of the legends have essentially gotten, you go back to the Lilly and days of the old OG Aussies, the OG West Indies bowlers.
Yeah.
The new age, the sort of Shane Warne, Glenn McGrath. He's got a better average than all of them. And average isn't everything. But I think for me, for Bumrah, he's done it every pitch, everywhere.
Yeah.
And you got to think, Indian pitches are so vastly different to Aussie pitches, English pitches, South African pitches. They're low bounce, typically don't have much pace in them, those Indian pitches. Then you come out to Australia where it's all pace and bounce. And the fact that he can get wickets in India, wickets in Australia, doesn't matter where he goes.
Thriving internationally.
He's so universal on any surface. And it's mostly just because of his freakish style. I don't know what you want to call it. Technique, action.
Yeah.
Where he... As they keep saying in the broadcast, he has that catapult style where he bends his arm, hyperextends it, and sort of you see his like arm is in front of him as he releases it.
It's a lot of wrist play in it.
A lot of wrist and a lot of just hyperflexion, and he just has that short run up and just generates so much pace, so accurate, can swing the ball both ways, can angle it in and take it away from the batter, can swing it back in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got every tool in the book. He has a great Yorker. He's good in T20 and one-day internationals. There's nothing can't do.
They did a comparison between his action and Cummings, and he actually like releases the ball like 20 to 30 centimeters like more in front.
Wow.
Than Cummings does.
Yeah. I mean, you can just tell that by just watching him, right? But it's the eye test. He has that he just has an action that you don't see anyone else have. Like it wouldn't matter if you trained a kid from the age of 3 to bowl like that. It's such a unique ability to only him. Yeah, you just got to have the natural, God-given...
freakish genetics
to be able to bowl like that. And plus, he's clearly a smart bowler. Like, he thinks about the game well. He's probably going to be the next captain. He works on his game. So to be good in all three formats, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to change up. Being a good T20 bowler, a lot of it is knowing when to bowl the right ball. Like, you can't bowl the Yorker every ball. You can't bowl a bouncer every ball. You got to know when to change it up, when's the right time to attack, when's the right time to defend. And the fact that he's good in T20, he clearly has the endurance to bowl long overs in Test match cricket. Like, he's really, if you're trying to come up with a weakness, so what can you say? The only weakness he has is that he can't really bat, which, in the modern day, you saw Cummins, he essentially, I want to say essentially won the game, but him and Lyon, the runs they got, Australia does not win if Cummins doesn't get his 90 runs in both innings and Lyon doesn't get the 40 in the
Started with that
innings.
Labuschagne, Cummings... And then once we fall further down the line, you then had Nathan Lyon and Scott Boland put on 50 plus runs.
The Nathan Lyon Scott Boland partnership was the partnership that won the game for Australia. I with hindsight, but if they get out cheaply, like within the first 10 runs of that partnership, India are chasing 280, 270.
Yeah. That's
a different game. India are always in the game then. You think of how they went, I think they were 3 for 140 something, right? After tea.
Yeah.
If that's, obviously it's different, if they're only chasing 280, it would have been different.
Stuff like that,
but let's just say for argument's sake that they were chasing 280 and 3 for 140. Yeah. That is such a different game. Those players who are coming in lower aren't thinking about blocking. They're thinking about playing more aggressively. Yeah. It's a different mindset. The Aussies have to put their fielders back. They can't be as aggressive in the field in their bowling lines and tactics. That's such a different game just for mindset-wise for both teams. Instead, You make India stay in the field for an hour longer than they thought they would have to. You're frustrating them. You're making them just get irritated. You saw Sharma after the games talking about Jaiswal and all the catches he missed.
Yeah.
Why are they talking about that? Because they get so frustrated that they feel like they should have got them off the field hours ago.
Yeah.
Chasing 270, going for the win. Instead, they're defending for their lives, trying to just survive against a 350 chase. All because Lyon and Boland just kept sticking in there.
Yeah.
Boland just blocks. Lyon was playing a few shots. There was a few nicks and edges that went down to slips. But essentially, they just persevered and won the game for them.
It would have been interesting because if that partnership doesn't go as long as it does, Australia then probably end up going into the field before the day's end on day 4. And who knows then, if we go out aggressive, we might find 1 or 2 wickets there.
We could. Or India could have gone in 0 for 60 and only chasing 220 on the last day. Of course it's... But and again, our bowlers had to bowl a lot those last few days. If they had to come out again that night, like that might have put more... Like we saw Stark was already injured, struggling with his back. If he had to bowl that night after bowling the morning and all day yesterday, that would have impacted them the next day. Instead, they were able to rest that whole day, put their feet up, and then come out fresh the next morning.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And
it would have been tough because Cummings was just out earlier getting all the runs.
He was out for like hours.
It gave him the rest of the afternoon off.
You can't underestimate how important that partnership was. It gave Australia all the momentum. It cut India's momentum. It got them sort of looking at each other saying, oh, Jaiswal dropped these cat. It just made them... It sort of made India turn on each other a little bit, and it made them think that the game is essentially out of reach. I'm sure they were still talking about they can win it and it's within their reach, but we know the stats that chasing anything above 350, around 350 is on a fifth day is near on impossible. Now it's doable, and they've done it at the Gabba. I think they were chasing 320 or something like that. They can do it, but it's such a different ball game, 350 to 280. So as you said though, I mean, if Lyon gets out straight away, they could have come in and batted in that last hour and got 3 down, and I mean, not even talking about it, but with how the game played out, with the benefit of hindsight, the Lyon-Boland partnership was the key, in addition to what Cummins was able to do, because Lyon's not able to do what he does if Cummins doesn't lay that platform, offering, 1, taking up time, and 2, putting in the 40 plus runs he did. He deserved the man of the match. He bowled great. He got the wicket he got with KR Rahul in the first innings. That ball was probably one of the best balls you'll see. And then the 2 breakthroughs he got in the second innings, that essentially opened it up. Because they were... Sharma and Jaiswal in that second innings looked very steady. They were just ready to block. They were taking up a lot of time. And when you need 10 wickets in the final day, you need early wickets. It was a new ball pitch. As soon as the ball got soft, you just could tell that it was getting wickets was a lot more difficult. So you knew that before over 40, you needed to have a significant impact, like be down the order. And once it got to like 20 overs and none down, I mean, they were only on like 30 runs, but still the wickets was what was important. So when they were 20 overs down with no wickets, you're like thinking, oh man, this is just going to be a draw, done. But then
Cummings comes out with a double wicket maiden.
Cummins strikes, gets the 2 wickets, and then boom,
huge.
We're on. Yeah. And then of course the big wicket was Stark getting Kohli. Yeah. That in a chase, you're never comfortable until Kohli's out because you know what he can do. And he's not in the greatest form right now, but he's always dangerous. So once he was out, you, as Australia started to believe, and then no wickets really in that middle session. Yeah. Jaiswal and Pant played super well, very defensive. Jaiswal's such an excellent stroke player. I mean, when he starts doing those cover drives and such a great player to watch. Yeah. And you thought, wow, no wickets, 3 down at T, okay, draw. And then all of a sudden, bang, that's how Test cricket can change, right? You get those 3 wickets.
Your man comes on. Rolls the arm. Travis Head.
I mean, they do say, remember, what's the celebration? Everyone thought everyone had many different interpretations. It was a bit weird. Yeah, but he explained afterwards what it means. He's got the golden finger. You got to put it on ice. You got to rest that finger because he can get a wicket. Yeah. But I mean, that was a poor shot choice on Rishabh Pant. They were looking very steady before that.
He would definitely take that back and do something different. Of course.
I mean, he got out like that way in the first innings by going for some crazy... I mean, that is who he is. Yeah. But you got to play the conditions. And he was playing very well by not doing those expansive shots, slowly getting the runs, just playing very defensively, and that's what you had to do in the instance. You were frustrating the Aussies. And who knows, if they kept batting for like another hour or so, only 3 down with 150 to chase, then you could have stepped on it and tried to chase it down, Yeah. But they sort of shot themselves in the foot. And then we got their, 3 wickets in short succession, right? It was 2 or 3 wickets. We got Rishabh Pant out. No, it was 3. We got Rishabh Pant out, and then Jadeja, and then the big one, Reddy, who got the century in the first innings, batted beautifully.
Line got him right.
India bats so deep that you don't feel comfortable until they're basically 8 down. Until you see Bumrah or Siraj in, you don't feel comfortable because they even down to Washington Sundar. I think he was nearly not out. He was not out in second innings, and it was very difficult to get out in the first innings. He's a great batter in Australian conditions. Yeah. So until you see Bumrah or Siraj, you ain't feeling comfortable. So as soon as Reddy got out, you're like, okay, now it's doable. Yeah. You still had to get a few breakthroughs, but I think then the Australians started to
the momentum was there, the confidence,
and you knew the new ball was coming soon.
Crowd was behind
the crowd was behind the players. You know when a team has the possibility to last for a draw like England did in a few of those test matches over in England. It's when they feel unfazed, like you don't beat the bat, you're just very steady. India didn't feel like they were any chance once Reddy got out to sort of block their way through. It felt like any ball could be a wicket. Australia didn't have to worry about the runs at all. And actually, to be honest, what we need to talk about is probably the most contentious moment of the test match, and probably the biggest moment. I mean, until we got Jaiswal out in the second innings, I don't think anyone thought that game was over, because Jaiswal had looked the best batter for India in the entire game.
He was there to stay the whole time.
Reddy looked great in the first innings, but it's different batting late in the innings versus what Jaiswal does. He has to bat the whole... So, as we said, it's a new ball pitch. So to blunt the new ball, plus to bat late, he only got ran out in that first innings. But in the second innings, again, he looked ominous. And then, as you saw, the no snicko, but ball deflection that was given not out on field and overturned out on the third umpire.
Overturns it.
What are you saying, out or not out?
I say out.
Based on what, the deflection?
Based on deviation.
Yeah.
I think the problem is... So obviously you have the third umpire there. He's looking at all the technology that he's got. They go through different camera angles. They see deviation of... Some people were saying it actually hit bat then glove, but you could tell at least came off the glove. So you see deviation on the camera, but they go to snicko. Flat lines, it's just basically the ambient noise that's usually there. So you see nothing there. Third umpire, I mean, in what he can do, he just overturns the call, calls it out. Probably in that situation, you want like a hotspot, but then they've gotten rid of hotspot because of the...
They just use snicko as the main one now.
Yeah, they just... why did they get rid of it?
Basically, whenever previously they did it, every time they did it, they went hotspot, and then they went to snicko anyways. It basically became useless. Hotspot was just not necessary. And a hotspot typically only does it if it's like a pretty significant edge.
Yeah, so you can't go to hotspot, obviously, because that's not in the game right now, but I thought it was a fair call. Apparently there was... I think you saw in the head goes up to Jaiswal and just says, like, did you hit it? And he goes, I don't know. And then usually in that case, it's like...
He looked a bit guilty.
But he ends up blowing up at the on-field umpires after the case.
As soon as you see nothing on snicko, typically snicko is the key determinator if it's out or not.
And then after the match, Rohit comes out and says he probably did hit it. He didn't really argue the call as well, but his argument was all this technology, India's always on the bad end of things and stuff like that, where, I mean, the technology's there. Obviously, it doesn't show up, but that's why you have umpires. That's why we have the umpires call in the LBW thing. Like, the umpires are there to make a decision. You've got the third one that goes upstairs when you want to overturn it or not overturn it. So it's still it's in all sport, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if India is single-handedly caught out. I mean, the third umpire is just making the decision they think to be right. The thing, when you watch the Channel 7 broadcast, they brought Simon Taufel on, the ex-umpire, who explained pretty well, who said it should never have even gone to snicko, because in the order of operations with the third umpire is as soon as the umpire saw the deviation or the deflection from it hit the glove, that is conclusive evidence. That was it. You don't need to see anything else. That is part of the letter of the cricket laws, that once you see a deviation when the ball is next to the glove or bat, that is conclusive evidence, and that's it. Decision done. The third umpire still wanted to go to snicko, maybe just to get the extra evidence, just to sort of be affirmed, right? It's a big moment, big occasion. You want to just sort of make sure that you have that extra level of conclusion, or to make sure. But, and of course, as we know, it showed nothing on the snicko, so it's like, well, what do you do? But by the letter of the law, the third umpire did the right thing. If he's sure that, which I think most people would agree, that there was a deviation in the ball's path after it made contact with the bat of the glove, then that's conclusive evidence, and it's out. I said it's crazy that it wasn't on snicko, but it must have just been a pretty feather touch on the glove or something else. But the only argument you can make is it's like camera angles playing tricks, that sort of like the ball swings away or something as it goes past.
That's what I was going to say, playing like, devil's advocate and stuff like that, and whether they then do go on to that next step of the process decision making where they go to snicko, can you then revert that back as if you didn't see the snicko and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I mean,
because I've seen that argument be made by the people. I don't believe so, but
No, I mean, look, I think it's pretty... Based on the video and the angles we saw, the ball moves as soon as it makes is next to the glove or the bat.
Yeah.
And I think everyone who's watching saw that. I think even the biggest Indian fan would have to agree that that's the case. I think the only argument you can make is that your eyes are playing tricks, essentially. That the camera angle trying to make a 3D, like real 3D life into a 2D image can play tricks where it makes it seem like it's hitting that when in reality it's just going past and starting to swing. Just a weird coincidence that as it hits the glove or goes next to the glove, it starts moving in an opposite direction. Yeah, that's the only argument you can make. But I think for the third umpire, I think he made the right decision. Australia got really unlucky earlier in that innings with an LBW call that was essentially rocketing into the stumps, but it was umpire's call. It was like millimeters away. Yeah. The umpire probably should have given that out. He doesn't. He gives it not out, and it's not enough to overturn it. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Yeah, that's cricket.
Just the game. Just the game.
And, India, yes, some would argue they copped the short end of the stick with the Jaiswal dismissal, but at the end of the day, even if you're Jaiswal and you're sitting at home looking at that, if you don't hit it, you're like, well, man, it really looks like I did. That's just it. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, and that's cricket. It's not always going to be perfect, even with the technology. But I think in this instance, the third umpire made the right decision with what he had, and as by the letter of the law, as soon as the third umpire is happy that there is a deviation, that's it. It doesn't need to go to Snicko. It should never have gone to Snicko. Yeah. I'm kind of glad he did, though, because otherwise what would have happened is maybe the TV would have put the Snicko on and showed that there was nothing, and then it would have been even more of a bigger thing, because it would have been like, oh, the third umpire didn't use it. What if he did use it? Now at least we know that the third umpire took it into account, but he prioritized the deviation of the ball over the Snicko, and that's the way he should have done it. So I'm glad he actually did go to the Snicko. It would have been much easier if the Snicko had just shown the spike, because that wouldn't. But we love some controversy, right? Twitter was blowing up, everything's going crazy.
100%.
There's so much controversy coming out of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked on the Sam Conster stuff. Obviously, he had a bad second innings, as we said he would. Boomerang just came out and said, "No, not today, son."
Peach of a ball, just beating for pace.
You can't do anything about that. You saw he basically did the same ball to Lyon. It doesn't. That one that's looking like it's gonna sort of go third, fourth line, and then hits the seam and bang, rockets inwards, takes your middle stump out. It doesn't matter who you are, you're not hitting that.
Nah, it was great. So Jaiswal gets out controversially, and then it comes to the Lyon and Boland show. Boland finishes it off for us. Lyon got the last wicket, but Boland got the 3 wickets after that, right? 2.
I think 2.
Yeah.
I can't remember, to be honest.
And
a little bit of a blur.
Ends up being probably one of the greatest test matches.
One of the best test matches ever, I'd say.
Sure.
I mean, when you add it all into context, India v Australia, tied series, Australia trying to retain, to win back the Border Gavaskar trophy.
Yeah.
Boxing Day test, the highest ever attendance for a Boxing Day test. Apparently the online, the TV viewership, the streaming viewership is through the roof. I don't know if it's a record, but it would have to be close.
People are loving their cricket right now.
It's when you add everything into context, how good the game was going into day 5, just great cricket on both sides, the momentum swings, just being at the time of the year it was, where everyone's watching, and it's just, I don't think you could have asked for a better overall spectacle as a fan. The players clearly were fully enthralled, enjoyed the match. Obviously, it sucks for India for losing, but I think even when they look back on it, we're like, wow, what a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
And it was just an excellent watch going down. I mean, just watching them get that last wicket, those last few wickets. Anyone who's an Australian Test fan who has to, unfortunately, remember the Edgbaston. Was it Edgbaston where we...
Yes.
The Edgbaston where we couldn't close that Test match out when we had ample time to get that last wicket and we kept choking. To see all the decisions we made, the correct reviews, the belief we had, even when we couldn't get a wicket in that second session, the third session, to still have the belief to get the wickets. It was just a great watch and a great feel. And you can tell when the Aussies do get these day 5, close out a test match with the wickets, it just means a bit more, because they know they've been on the receiving end of probably the worst ever loss on a day 5 on a match they should have won in that Edgbaston Ashes. So I feel like all those players that have been a part of it, the Lions, the bowlers, Smith, they just get that extra bit of enjoyment out of winning these matches, and you could feel that in their faces when they won.
Yeah,
and it just felt great. I mean, it's, as you said, cricket's in a great place right now. It's doing Australia and India. Cricket is still our probably premier sports, and it's as we said leading into this series that it was going to be a great series, and it's delivered, and there's still one more.
100%. Yeah, so we're 2-1 up leading into Sydney. India wins. They retain it.
We need a draw or a win.
Draw or win
to win back the Border Gavaskar trophy.
Yeah,
I do like how the winner, whoever owns the trophy, like the Ashes, whoever owns it, if it's a draw, they keep it. I feel like that's, you need some, it's sort of one, it keeps, it makes every result.
The best, you want to beat the best.
And it makes every result matter. It makes the last series matter. It's not like a fresh start. It's like the history of the last one comes into this one.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not a good thing, but I feel like in cricket, it's a really good thing, especially when you're playing a 5-match series. When you win one, it should mean something.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how often these 5-match series still come down to 1 or 2 games and a draw and such. So, I mean, look, to put a bow on it, was, as we said, one of the best test matches ever. Plenty of storylines out of it. You had the debut of Constas, who could end up being a great player. I mean, he had a poor second innings, and I sort of spoke on that in our last step, that you don't just want to be a one innings sort of known for one innings. He's going to have some pressure on him in the SCG, because Bumrah and them, they're not going to... I saw a video online of him after Kohli got out, revving the crowd up and doing all this sort of stuff. Like, the Indian players, especially Kohli, I got to look at that and remember that. And Bumrah revved the crowd up when they got him out, and that when you come out to bat Constas, Bumrah is going to be trying to knock your middle stump out every ball he gets. So it's going to be tough for him. It'd be interesting going to the next match how Stark's going to be. Kohli, I mean, all the conversation about Sharma.
There's a few questions coming out. Obviously, this sort of result, it put a Band-Aid, I would guess, on our side of things, and really opened up the wounds for India.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a draw, we're probably hearing a few more conversations. But
all the pressure's on Rohit Sharma. I mean, you listen to on Twitter was trending Rohit Sharma retire and all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, he doesn't look good. He was able to face a few more balls in that second innings than he has previously, but you can just tell he doesn't look right. In the field, he's getting angry at his teammates. As a captain, when someone drops a catch, the worst thing you can do is try to rub it in and make it worse. It's your job to stay level-headed. It's all right, focus on the next one.
Then he speaks about it after the fact
He even said in the post-match on the field, we missed our chance if we took our chances.
That's what I was going to lead to.
It's not a good look for a captain, experienced captain like that. For me, what that tells me is that he is himself feeling the pressure and the stress, that he knows that a win is very important right now for his sake and the team's sake, and he's looking for someone to blame. He's like projecting a little bit. And Jaiswal was probably your best player in the match. I mean, you can make an argument for Reddy in his first innings, and I'll accept that. But those two, Jaiswal across the 2 innings was clearly the best batter for India. And yes, those catches he dropped were, especially that second one, was off Labuschagne. I mean, that was... that if they make that catch, it's a different game. But you got to make your catches. That's part of cricket. Yeah,
that's the way it goes. And from our side, really the conversation's about Stark, whether he's going to be right Mitch Marsh,
who hasn't had a great series. We've got to say we love Mitch Marsh. He had a good year previously, but this series he's probably been Australia's weakest. I mean, him and Khawaja.
He's had single-digit runs the past 10 innings or something.
He hasn't made a single contribution.
Yeah, so...
At least Khawaja's soaking up some balls. Like, he's not looking confident or getting big scores, but at least he's 20 off 70, which, as we said, on these wickets that are very new ball dominant, to just have an opener that's able to soak up 70, 80 balls, I know it's not the most beautiful cricket to watch, but in terms of winning, it really does matter. Whereas Marsh isn't doing anything.
Thankfully for Marsh, coming into SCG, I think the last 9 innings, both red ball and white ball, he's like averaging over 50.
That is
So he's coming in with form in SCG. That's if they decide to go with him. I think it sort of relies on how Stark sort of pulls up. Because if they don't go with Stark, probably looks like a Sean Abbott come in.
Bo Webster.
For Stark, though.
I think Bo Webster's probably next up,
Even if Stark comes and they just keep...
I think Marsh. I think if there's
surely they need another quick, though.
I think if there's one... Webster bowls. I think if there's one mistake, like... I mean, we have to see how Hazelwood is. Is he donezo? Is he definitely done?
Not sure.
Well, yeah, I mean... Abbott, I haven't seen him much in red ball. He has never played for Australia. Obviously, he's been around for a long time. He's been around the squad, being our sort of a 12th man and such. But that's the biggest concern I have for us moving into this next match is our bowling. We had Cummins who had to bowl many overs, spent a lot of time in the sun batting. Boland, who's bowled a lot of overs, who's probably not used to bowling that many overs at this level for a while. Stark, who's, if he plays, will not be 100%. And then the players we bring in, if Hazelwood's not ready, that means we're going to have, as I said, Webster or Abbott. I'd love to bring in Nessa, but he doesn't seem to be fit right now either. So, I mean, I don't know if Webster's, that'll probably be his debut. It'll be Abbott's debut. In a deciding test match at the SCG, that's an Indian batting lineup who is going to be
a lot of pressure.
out for blood. That's a lot of pressure. And when you face it, the opposite attack has Bumrah in it, that's a lot of pressure to put on Cummins and basically just on Cummins. If Stark doesn't play, it's really just Cummins is going to have to lead the attack, and he's good at doing it, but that's a lot of pressure to put on him. So that's probably going to be our biggest stressor going into this, or concern moving into this last test, is our strength of bowling. Yeah,
and you don't really want to change like a lot either, because that dressing room's not coming off a real high.
Oh yeah, plenty. And the vibes are good.
Obviously, there's a lot of negatives that you can put towards Mitch Marsh, but
he's a great team guy.
Like, people will say he like lifts all confidence in the dressing room and stuff like that.
I think he's just a good guy to be around, like positive energy, which is great to have in Test match. Obviously, he would himself want to be scoring more runs.
Yeah,
he's not been able to bowl many overs.
Yeah, he hasn't been contributing with the ball. Hasn't been contributing with the bat.
He doesn't seem very fit right now. Like he just
thankfully made some crucial catches.
He's great at catching.
Yeah,
great catches.
I think stick with him. Go on. Hopefully, Head has a better test than last test. He didn't score any runs.
Expect him to bounce back.
Yeah, so surely he has a bounce back. Top four's finally scoring some runs.
Yep,
Labuschagne got 70 plus each innings.
Yeah, Labuschagne's playing well. I mean,
Steve had that one, the 100 in the first innings.
Labuschagne's not playing. He's like Quaj. He's not playing an attractive brand of cricket. He doesn't look comfortable at the crease, but he's surviving and he's soaking up balls. And Labuschagne's doing better than Quaj. He's getting past the 50.
Yeah.
Smith, again, is probably in the same boat. He's not looking very smooth or comfortable, but he's getting the runs. Like, it's just finding ways, which I guess you got to do. These pitches that are very bowler-friendly against bowlers like Bumrah. And the way they used Bumrah in that second innings by bringing him on for like 2-3 over spells was genius, because what was happening is if he didn't get a wicket in his spell, the amount of times that the change, when as soon as Bumrah came off, like the first or second ball, the guy who replaced Bumrah would get a wicket. Because it's like the mental of, like, okay, we're done with Bumrah, we're good, and boom, my middle peg's off. Like, it's the mental game that you can tell that the fear that Bumrah strikes in these Australian players is very real. They're thinking about it, they're clearly aware of it, and when he comes off, their guard gets let down a bit, and that's inviting the wicket. So it's going to be the Australian batting lineup soaking up all the balls is what we need, and then ideally they can soak it up and let Head and hopefully Marsh, if he plays, to unleash. I'd love to see just Marsh just walk in and just start swinging. If he gets out, he gets out. Just start putting the pressure back on. Enough. He's just blocking, and just it's not working for him. He's just waiting to get out basically at the moment.
Yeah,
and he's at his best, I think, when he's playing aggressive and looking to score.
For sure. So it sets up what's going to be probably hopefully a good watcher for the SCG to win the trophy. Away. Yeah,
I think the more I think about it, the more I think it's probably going to be a batting dominated match, this one.
That's what it usually is at SCG.
And I just think because the bowler's going to be tired. Like Bumrah, yes, he's one of the best, but he himself had to bowl 40 plus overs across the match. Only 3 days off, travelling up to Sydney.
Yeah,
it's going to be hot. It's a tight turnaround. The Aussie bowlers, as we said, if I'm the Australians, I kind of want to make a change or two. Like, I don't think you want to run Stark, Cummins, Boland, Marsh as your 4 sort of main bowlers again, as fast bowlers again, because they're going to be... You worry that if it is batter dominated and they're having to bowl 20 plus overs each innings, I don't think they'll be able to survive. I don't think Stark will be able to survive. Depends how bad his injury is. We know Marsh will probably be able to bowl 4 overs. I worry about their ability to bowl deep into that match. So bring in a fresh face like a Webster or an Abbott, who is completely fresh and ready to go, who can, is going to be able to deliver a high amount of overs. Yes, they're not very experienced, but both of them can swing the bat. So that's an extra... We saw how important it is in the Indian innings to have players low down the order who can chip in with the bat. We saw it in the Australian innings too with Cummins and Lyon. But these guys are probably more known for their batting than Cummins and Lyon are. So that'd be a good extra weapon to have in our batting lineup. It's
going to be interesting. See where they head with the selection. So we'll know that over the next couple of days. Anything else on the test that you want to talk about?
Not really. I mean,
I don't really see India making much change, right? Like, surely they stick with just what they know. This will probably be Virat's and Rohit's. Could be the final 5 days, unless they...
Be interesting. They'll probably keep Sundar. He batted well. Doesn't really bowl. He's not very... SCG is typically a spin-friendly pitch, so that means they'll have Jadeja and Sundar as the all-rounders who can bowl some spin.
They'll keep them in for sure.
Yeah, Sundar's batted well. They'll probably have to keep Reddy in. He's not the best bowler at the moment, but clearly his batting is top-notch.
That's right. The only change they could really make is Rohit for Gill, but they won't do that.
They could make Akash deep, take him out, but he's been bowling well, just not getting lucky with the wickets.
Yeah,
they'll obviously keep Bumrah. They'll keep Siraj. I mean, Siraj has bowled a lot of overs. He must be running low on gas, but he just seems like a guy that just keeps going and going and going. So they probably, I don't know if they even have any replacement for him, so he'll just play again. And then as for their batting, I can't see any large scale changes. I don't think you'd want to just stick with them, and they'll just go again. And I think India are. Don't underestimate them at your own peril in this game. I think they'll come out with a chip on their shoulder, backs against the wall, and I think that's when India play the best. And I think the Kohlis, they're in for a big game here. And if I'm Australia, I'm enjoying that win, but I'm refocusing straight away, because India are going to be sitting there plotting their revenge. And if you come in Australia, coming in all happy-go-lucky that we've won that game, the series is in our favour, and you start in and you have to start batting and you go 4 down for 20, and then India come in and we're ready, and
Yeah.
It could be
They
bad.
have to enjoy that win, put it aside, rewire, because the trophy's on the line.
Yeah,
here.
the 3-match turnaround is crazy. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a battle of will. It's going to be a battle of endurance, a battle of temperament as well, to sort of just stay calm throughout all this, because India had a big low. They're going to have to try and level themselves out. And Australia have had a big high, and they're going to have to level themselves out and not let the emotion affect them too much. So yeah, great watching coming. I just can't believe I feel like I've just detoxed from. I've been watching that much cricket recently, and we've got another test match coming up. It's going to be great to watch. Our hometown of Sydney. We're not going because, I mean, it's just a nightmare to get to. And honestly, nowadays, the cricket's just better to watch on the TV, just the way it is. So we'll be watching at home. And I mean, I think it's too much to expect a similar spectacle, but I just hope it's another good match, even match between bat and ball. Hopefully the pitch is as good as it was in... We speak on the pitch as much, but credit to the ground staff who developed a pitch that was very even between bat and ball. Sometimes the bowl looked more dominant, sometimes the bat looked more dominant, which is how a test match should be. Go deep into day 5. The wicket didn't break up too much where it was going crazy. It was impossible to bat on day 5, but it was still got more bowler friendly as it went on. So great pitch. Hopefully the Sydney pitch is the same, and hopefully the rain can stay. I mean, for the spectacle, let's hope the rain stays away. But for us Aussies, a bit of rain wouldn't hurt.
Don't worry. We were saying how we didn't want rain.
No. I mean, look, knowing Australia's luck, this will be the one year that Sydney's sunny the entire time. And there's 100%. Not a hint of rain. Because I can't remember the last time we had a Sydney Test match that had a bit of rain affected.
Hey, all we need is a draw.
Yeah, well, let's win that. I reckon 3-1. We should have won the Gabba test.
Yeah,
we deserve to win this series.
We've
been the better team, apart from obviously the first test. So it'd be good to see us win, close us out. But
for sure.
Underestimate India at your risk.
Yeah. Let's make a transition to the NFL.
Let's do it.
Week 17. Basically, playoffs forming. We've already seen heaps of division clinches, playoff berths being clinched. Really, the only sort of up for grabs spots are from AFC side. You've got Broncos, Bengals, and Miami. And then for the NFC, it's the NFC South division slot. And then outside of that, it's just seeding, basically.
Yeah, the regular season ending with a bit of a whimper, I think you ought to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens sometimes. The top teams are separated a fair bit from the middle to lower teams, which means the playoffs have sort of been set for a few weeks now. It's not really any major, as you said, major last match sort of must watch that you're like, oh my goodness, I've got to see. I mean, the Bucks, they got 14-point favourites. Denver will probably be heavy favourites against the Chiefs, will be resting everyone. So there's nothing. The only big game is typically the Lions and Vikings, which will for the number one seed. But I think everyone's ready for the playoffs. It's been a long season. Playoffs should be excellent. As I said, it's a very top-heavy league at the moment, which means that when these teams clash in the playoffs, it should be excellent viewing, especially in the AFC, which just has the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens all looking primed, ready to go. Bills and Ravens wanting to get revenge on the Chiefs for just beating them, knocking them out of the playoffs every year, thinking this is our year. Chiefs going for a 3-peat, probably looking the best they've looked in years at the moment. So
it's like all the juggernauts are starting to like catch fire towards the end of the
Eagles
season.
Looking great.
So it could.
It's a little concerning that Hurts hasn't played knocked out last week, didn't play this week, probably won't play this week, next week. Sorry. So
could be a lot of football.
That's a lot of football missed, and that's an offense that had some questions about them. I mean, Hurts had a great game the week before he got knocked out, but it's still an offense that had questions about its passing game not too long ago. So for him to miss all that chunk and then have to come in a knockout game in the playoffs is a bit risky for the Eagles, but their O-line and their run game and their defense at the moment should be able to carry the load. Yeah,
they've had heaps of reps and stuff, so I'm pretty sure they're pretty confident in...
Would you play Barkley this week?
No.
No? 80 yards for the record?
Yeah, well, he's 80. He could probably get that in 2 plays, couldn't he?
The problem is that whoever you're... I think they're better than the Giants, right?
Yeah, Giants.
So they're not going to want him to get that record. They're going to be stacking the box and just saying, you ain't running the ball.
Yeah.
So he could, imagine if you're the Eagles and you're just trying to get in the record and you just keep running and they keep stopping it every play. What do? You just take him off 20...
Maybe you start throwing him in receiver, doing some wide receiver screens and see if he gets through that way.
You have to start doing some trick plays. I don't know. I just think it's not worth it. Because one, it's too many yards to guarantee it. If it was 20 yards, okay, cool. But 80 yards is too many yards. You're not going to be able to guarantee it. The Giants are going to be looking for it. They're not going to... That's his old team. They're not going to want him to do that on. Yeah. So if I'm him, I already beat the 2,000 yards. I'm not going to win the MVP either way. Yes, you probably want it for your legacy to go in the history books, but look, you win a Super Bowl, that's just as important. He's an injury-prone guy,
for sure.
so just... Yeah, I said I wouldn't do it. It's too many yards. If it was 20, 30, 40 yards even, I'd do it because I think that's nearly guaranteed. But 80 yards is not guaranteed against a team that's just going to be at all costs saying you ain't getting it.
Speaking about that sort of stuff, I'd be interested to know what incentives are on the line this week, because you know how usually there's
I saw a tweet about that. I didn't read it though, but apparently it's a good way to look at betting this week. See which players have all the incentives to get.
Because imagine if you just need like a receiver to get 50 yards receiving, and he gets an extra 500k or something like that. Like
100%.
Backing that sort of stuff would be.
And because the team, the players would be aware of that too, surely. Yeah. Like, they want that player to get the money.
100%. Yeah, get paid.
But that's, honestly, it's a weird betting week this week. It's a one where some teams are going to be completely checked out. Some teams looking forward to next week if they're in the playoffs. Some teams still wanting to go into the playoffs with momentum. Some players resting. It's like a fuzzy week.
You got to wait until probably like Friday, Saturday when teams are sort of like named and you know who's starting, who's like resting and stuff like that. And I'm sure the lines will probably be going up and down by like 3 to 5 points.
I feel like this is a week where the professionals can do much better than the public.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a week that's so different that you need to
you don't
come at it
understand
differently.
Who's playing who.
And this is one where trends and history might help you a bit more than it has throughout the year. Like throughout the year, the public has been doing great.
Yeah.
Because I think they're learning more about the game and researching more and getting more insights and analytics into it.
There's so much more content out there.
The public is no longer just Joe Public. The public is slowly but surely getting as much information from the professional side.
Americans are loving their football.
Yeah, and betting is everywhere, right? Yeah. And people take it seriously now. They like talk about it. They watch content about it. It's massive. So the idea that public just bet on whoever they think is just the hot team is just, some people do, but the majority of public I don't think do that anymore.
It's not a thing.
Whereas this is the week where things are a little different, where if you got to sort of be aware and switch up your model pretty heavily, and some public will, but a lot of the public I think will be on some teams that they've liked or bets that they've liked throughout the year, not realizing that this is a trap spot just because of so many different things going on and teams looking forward. And so, this is a week that I'll definitely just be staying away from, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go into our BS picks for the week?
Let's do it.
Who wants to go first? I mean, we had like basically 4 games the same anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can go first if you want. It's up to
you. So first one, we're both on this one. Chargers -4.5.
Look, I stole this one from you. This was the one I didn't have in my 5, and I added it in after you said, and I sent a text to you after this game that, wow, this was the most obvious pick of the week. I can't believe I didn't put it in earlier.
I mean, I wasn't expecting such a blowout like that. Like, I knew Dobbins was coming back. He absolutely just killed the run game. And then on the Patriots, like, Herbert had a great offensive game, but Drake May in their offense, they just couldn't get a third down. Didn't get a single fourth down when they went for it. I think that was 0 for 3 on that.
Yeah.
So it was just, they had nothing going on offense. And, Herbert, Dobbins, McConkey, those 3 are just like absolutely mixing right now.
The reason why I put this one in over the others is just because Chargers coming off a loss, needing to win this to make the playoffs, a cardboard team, which is an emotional team.
Yeah.
I just knew that they were going to come out hot and just have more to play for than the Patriots.
100%.
More motivation and coming off. I love a team off a loss, especially a team that's coached well. Off a loss is just such a good spot, I feel like. And the Patriots got blown away by a team with more to play for, essentially.
Yeah. And then the next one, probably the baddest beat we've ever had. We were texting the whole overtime. Broncos +3.5 against the Bengals.
What made this even worse, I saw another tweet about this one that said we would have covered this if the running back just didn't get injured when he was going. Could have scored the touchdown, but didn't. If he didn't get injured and just walked off and they didn't use the timeout, the Broncos would have been forced to use a timeout, and then the clock would have been gone basically, and they would have kicked it and game over. Like, the amount of different things that had to happen to not get that cover is like absurd. Sometimes you just got to throw your hands up. You know what I mean? Betting is betting. Even when you're nearly a sure thing, I'm not even going to run through everything that happened, but the fact they missed that field goal from right in front.
Yeah.
The Broncos had the ball twice in overtime.
Yeah.
The second time they had it, they just needed to literally get 1 first down for the tie. Done. Can't get it. In the fourth quarter, the Broncos offense was looking unbeatable, marching down the field. Suddenly hits to overtime, and they can't move the ball at all on the worst defense in the league. Yeah. It's just like, it was just meant to be. I mean, Bo Nix had that great drive to tie the game at the end with that touchdown. You're thinking, all right, we're on here.
Didn't go for 2.
Which they
Sean Payton scared.
Absolutely should have. Bo Nix wanted to go for it.
Yeah.
We said it was just the right move to go for it there. You have the offensive momentum. You're versing the worst defense. You've got to back your offense there to get 2 yards against the worst defense in the league.
We're saying you lose the toss there. You're putting the ball in Joe
Burrow's hands, who's looking unbeatable. Probably the best QB form-wise right now. You haven't been able to cover them. They've been marching down the field at will in that second half.
Yeah.
you know, you have a good defense, and you probably have the better defense, which maybe that's what he was thinking. We have the better defense of the two. Let's trust them, and you know, we'll get the ball back. It turns out they managed to get the ball back in overtime. They ended up working out that way. Just what ended up killing them was actually their offense, not their defense. So yeah, it's just a bad beat. Crazy game, great to watch. I mean, Broncos, you're kicking yourself. Again, you should just gone for 2, Peyton. Just end that game there. You got a big game next week. You could have saved yourself 8 minutes of overtime. Just gone for the play. If you don't make it, so be it. If you make it, sweet, you're off and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he was going to go for it until they had that big break, checking if it was a touchdown or not, right? And then he decided not to. Because he had his time.
I knew Bo wanted to go for it.
No, but Peyton initially had his thing for 2,
and
then they did the long review to check if it was actually a touchdown. Then he changed his mind. He got scared of it. So, I'd love to know I'm sure maybe he said in the press conference of what his rationale was to not go for the 2.
Maybe someone told him about what the stat was about going for it in that situation, stuff like that.
I don't know, man. I just feel like in that moment, you just be aggressive, be the one going, like just be the initiator. You know, just that Bengals defense would have been so nervous. They just gave the game away. They would have been
usually that kind of guy.
Yeah, and you got to think the Bengals thought they'd won that game. All of a sudden, the Broncos against a rookie has to march the whole way down the field and score a touchdown on you, and they do it. Yeah. You just know the Bengals defense right there thinking, "Oh my god, we've just cost our team another game." Yeah. And then they got to line up and defend a 2. They would have been tight. They would have been nervous. It would have been the perfect time to take advantage of that. And look, it's hard to criticize them too much because at the end of the day, they did survive that coin toss. They lost the coin toss, and they got the ball back. So you've got to think, well, okay, it was the right decision, but just a bad beat.
It was a bad beat.
Probably the worst beat, to be honest. Like, you can't really get a worse not cover.
And then the next one, Falcons plus 4.5 against Washington.
I liked his bet. Looked good. Washington, I got to give credit to Jane Daniels in that second half. He played so well. I mean, it wasn't just him. The whole offense. Yeah. I think the Falcons had one drive in the third quarter, and it was a 3-and-out or something. And the rest, apart from that, the Commanders just controlled the ball the entire quarter. The second half, they just came out and just said, nope, like, we're just going to do what we want to do, and you're not going to be able to stop us. The first half, they had a lot of penalties and stuff that sort of ruined their offensive momentum, but they just looked like a team that was on song, that just was comfortable in who they are, knew what they were going to do, had a great game plan, and just stuck to it. The QB made the plays when he needed to, great play calling. And I was honestly just more impressed with the Commanders. I thought even the Falcons still played well. I thought the Penix played well for the Falcons. They got that late touchdown to tie it up. I was like, man, what an excellent play. Just couldn't stop him in OT. Just literally what happened in the third quarter happened in OT, where they couldn't stop the ball marching down. Look, I was honestly probably on the right side of this bet, +4, touchdown or anything could have happened there, and I cover. I got lucky with the Penix touchdown to tie it up and even take it to overtime. But just credit to the Commanders. They're ready for the playoffs. Yeah,
like Jaden Daniels just channeled his like Lamar Jackson style of play, when like 200 plus passing, 100 plus rushing. Like, he just had an absolute baller of a game. So next one, we're on opposing sides. Panthers plus 8.5.
Yeah, there's a bad one. I said to you the night before that I was going to lose this one.
Yeah, because it ended up the line moved to 9.5.
I just knew that this was basically the same spot as the Chargers Patriots, where you got a team that's desperate, coming off a loss, that needs the game against a team that doesn't need the game. It was a silly bet from me. It was one where I was playing the number and playing the division, and it's just the Bucks against a team like that has played better recently, but it's still a low tier team, and they just flexed their muscle and did what I said when I made the bet, that there was always the possibility that the Bucks would just come out and blow them away offensively, and I should have put more weight on that being more of a probability than not. Like I said, that's a possibility. That was more likely, with hindsight, of course, but that was the probability, not a possibility. Yeah. So I just a bad read for me on that one. I knew I made a mistake the night before, but by then it's too late and just got to take my medicine. Yeah, massive offensive game by Tampa. Like,
Panthers defense just had no answers. And like, they just had no run game either. Like I spoke about, Chubba's been helping them offensively so much, and they just didn't have him. Had absolutely no rushing on their end. Like, their highest rusher was Blackshear, whoever that is, for 20 yards.
Sorry, Blackshear.
Sorry, Blackshear. Sorry for the...
But it was bad.
For the side comment like
that. Bad
bet,
bad game. Bucks had to win that one. They did, and now they would have to have a choke of all time to lose against the lowly Saints to not clinch a playoff spot. Who would they versus? They'd probably be the 4th seed.
Who would?
The Bucks, if they get in, would they be the 4 seed, like the lowest division winner, or would it be the Rams? No, the Rams probably have more wins, wouldn't they?
No, I think Rams have more wins.
Even if they lose this week and Bucks win.
Let me double check.
Because that's interesting.
Real quickly.
Because the highest wild card would have to be the Detroit or Vikings.
Well, they end on the same wins.
Okay.
So however that works, I think it's just strength of schedule then.
Do they have a verse this year?
I don't think so.
Either way. So let's say they finish 4th, they'll have to verse. I mean, to be fair, is that division, the Green Bay division, are the 2 highest wildcard spots from that division?
Yes.
So the Packers have a better record than the Commanders?
Yes, they do.
Right. So either way, if Bucks will probably be playing either the loser of Lions and Vikings or the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, Commanders and Packers have the same wins.
All right.
11.
So because you wouldn't mind versing the Commanders, to be honest. If you're the Bucks,
I'd rather Commanders over Packers, 100%.
If you're the Bucks, you're thinking, all right, Commanders have looked good, but it's a playoff game, and it's a big. They'd be at home too. Yeah. So Bucks at home, rookie QB away in his first playoff start. Now Jaden Daniels has looked pretty unflappable this year. He's looked pretty confident, but that's a different beast.
Commanders defense have had their problems as well.
They have.
Against that Bucks
they'd be moving the ball. That'd be a high scoring game.
Yeah,
we definitely wanted to be on the over on that one. But that's a game that the Bucks would definitely feel comfortable in.
For sure.
Packers is a different. It's more of a scary one. But again, the Bucks would be at home. Like that's the thing with winning the division. Such an advantage playing at home. Like if it's in Green Bay, different story. But the Bucks at home, you still give them a chance to beat the Packers.
Yeah.
Against the Lions, that's a tough one. The Lions' offense is probably better, but you'd expect the Bucks to be able to score some points. Against the Vikings, I think they'd be probably dead in the water. I think the Vikings are just too good for them. But my point is that I think the Bucks can actually do some damage this year's playoffs.
100%.
So I don't think they're a one and done for sure. I think they'll be. I reckon Baker is like the perfect personality for that week 1 playoff matchup. Like he's the perfect guy for that week 1 where people underestimate him. Yeah. They're sort of coming in the division that no one's really worried about.
Cause the upset.
Boom. I reckon he wins that week 1 and causes an upset. Yeah. So yeah, if Bucks are definitely. I mean, week 2 is gonna be difficult, but never write them off.
Yeah. And then the final one here, we're both on Lions -3.5 today against the 49ers.
Yeah, look, at halftime, this one was not looking good.
It wasn't.
Niners were moving the ball at will, scoring touchdowns. The
3
Lions
touchdowns
defense, I was about to write the Lions off, saying their defense just has nothing. But again, their offense just pulled them out. I mean, their offense is just so dominant right now. The lucky Purdy had 2 turnovers, one real bad one in the fourth quarter or late third quarter or something, where the Niners were down 7 or 8 at this point, and they were marching, they were doing well, and they kind of needed this for the momentum.
I think they were down only like 3 or 4.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. But I think they needed it because the Lions had all the momentum recently. This was they needed this drive to just
it was looking like a shootout, and then they just give the ball away.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
Lions just march it on.
And then that was it. And then there's sort of been a story with the 49ers this year that their second halves are a little bit just lackluster. I mean, you got to put that a bit on the coach too. He's clearly scheming something up well in the first quarter, first half, and then as the game goes on, he's not able to make adjustments. So, yeah. It's a terrible year for the 49ers continues. The whole debate around that team, or will you pay Purdy? What do you pay him? What do you offer him? Do you offer him anything? Just keep him for next year? Do you give him a lower contract? Do you offer him the big money? That's going to be the big debate. Apparently the Niners play a bit of hardball, so you doubt they'll be giving him the big $50-60 million contract. But if I was the Niners, I'd be giving Purdy a Baker contract. I think $40 million a year, most of it guaranteed. I'd be happy with that. And if I'm Purdy, I'm like, I think that... I'm not someone to sort of tell other players what to do with their money, but I think we've spoken about this before. Then the difference between 40 million and 60 million is 20 million. It's a big difference. But if you're earning 40 million a year, I mean, he's only 1 million a year right now. Yeah. Why not take 3 years, 40 million, 35 of it, say, guaranteed? Yeah. Take that money, prove yourself over the next 3 years with a team that can then spend that money elsewhere and staying a good team and win games, and then you can get a bigger contract if you're good enough. Trying to hold out for a 60 million a year, you might not get it. You might have to play an extra year where you could get injured. You could play poorly where people don't want to pay you then. If I'm Purdy, I'm taking less money. I'm backing myself to play well in those years with a good team around me in a good system. Yeah. And I'm the next contract, I'm going to get more money. At the end of the day, 40 million a year is still 40 million a year. You just got to take it. So that's what I'd do. And, but yeah, that'll be the debate. Maybe he wants the full 60 million that QBs are getting nowadays. But I think the Lawrence deal and those sort of deals, the Tua deal, I think those sort of might have scared off a few owners and orgs saying, okay, they just paid Trevor 60 million. That is, if they could take that back right now, they would do it in a heartbeat. That's such a poor contract. They're stuck with him now. He's shown flashes, but he's not a $60 million player.
Even the production that Vikings got out of Sam Darnold this year.
He's going to be 40, 50 million, right?
He's basically won himself the role now, even if JJ comes back.
What do? Do you keep him?
As in JJ? Do you keep JJ?
Do you keep Darnold? You're going to have to pay him.
You have to keep Darnold.
But you'd have to pay him 40, 50 mil.
He's about to... If they win against the Lions, get the 1 seed, like they can...
Yeah, but their whole thing was they drafted McCarthy because they wanted to spend the money on Jefferson and Addison and everyone else in the defense. You suddenly pay Darnold 40, 50 mil. That changes your whole structure. That's a big call.
Yeah, but imagine going through this year and then dropping Darnold for JJ. Didn't play at all this year. Like, he had the injury, so it will be like another rookie season for him.
Yeah, but what if you give Darnold 50 mil and he turns out next year that he reverts back to being a pumpkin?
I mean, that's... what about Atlanta and... their mate, Cousins.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing that might happen.
Look, it's an interesting thing. Every week his value seems to go up and up because he keeps just delivering. I mean, if he plays well again this week, it might go up to 55 million. I mean, he might be the highest paid QB by the end of the year. It's just, look, he's playing great. I think he deserves to be paid. If you're the Vikings, yeah, it's going to be difficult to let him go, but there's going to be teams knocking on the door offering him big money. If you're the Raiders, you're not thinking of offering him 50 mil. If you're the Vikings, I don't think you can justify that. I mean, you'd have to get rid of you'd have to completely blow up your team, essentially, and really change a lot of things. You just drafted McCarthy, you clearly believe in him. What are you going to do with him? I think you're paying him like 10 mil or something because of being
Maybe they trade off McCarthy.
Maybe. I mean, that's a play, but again, that's a big pivot. They clearly made the decision that we're going to move off Kirk. We're not going to pay a QB 40, 50 million. We're going to go to a rookie QB. We've got a great team around. We don't need to pay these guys a lot of money. We're going to build up our team, do the sort of Brock Purdy model, the model where we get a young QB on cheap money and can pay everyone else. And if you suddenly pivot to doing the opposite of that, where you're paying a QB, not the top tier, but close to it, that's a big change.
Yeah, he might help out, take a couple of mil off the total.
He might
help out the team.
But again, because there's going to be a bidding war for him, that's going to, he's going to have to take yes, he's probably got some friends there and the organization's done him well, but it's sort of going to be a Purdy situation, isn't it? Where do you want to take that less money? I reckon, again, 40 mil, 35, 40 mil, the Baker deal. Take that, most of it guaranteed.
Yeah.
Keep the good team around, and maybe he'll accept that. And then, maybe they trade McCarthy. Maybe they keep him. Maybe he's happy to go under. I don't know. I don't think
they have a heartbreaker this year. If they make it to the Super Bowl, if they make it to NFC, have a heartbreaker. He's going to be hungry to try and get that chip.
It's going to be hard to get rid of him either way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're guaranteed to be the 1 or 2 seed. So it's going to be very difficult for them to get rid of him, especially if they win this week, lock up the 1 seed, get a bye, the guaranteed week 2 playoffs, home field advantage, and that home field is an advantage at Vikings. They support their team in Minnesota. Sure. So if they do get home field advantage, I mean, tell you what, they're not going to be an easy out for anyone. The problem is, Darnold is definitely capable in the playoffs of throwing 2 or 3 picks, right? Like he hasn't done it in the playoffs before. Yes, he's played great in the regular season, but he's still making mistakes. He's still throwing picks. It's going to be... People have a quick memory in the NFL. If he, in that first game of the playoffs in the divisional round, because they go to bye in the week 1, and he comes out and throws 3 awful picks and has a shocking game, the discussion changes real quick. Oh, he's not good in the playoffs. It's just a regular season. He's not really that good. Can you really trust him? Is he worth the big money? That'll be all the conversation. And then all of a sudden he's back. He's back down to earth. And Vikings, everyone's saying, "Oh yeah, just go McCarthy. He can offer you the same things." So look, it's right now. Yes, you're paying him whatever he wants to be paid. You can't get rid of him, but just wait and see. Because people have a short memory, and people. It's funny, they have a short memory, but yet they remember who he was previously, Darnold. Like they will revert back to who they think he is, rather than taking this year on its merits. So
he's top 2 in the comeback player of the year awards. So.
Surely he wins it. Who else is
Joe Burrow? Apparently, his favorite.
Ridiculous.
It's just like they're only calling it a comeback because he
was injured. I get it, but my goodness, I mean, this guy's been to Is he won MVP, Burrow?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, but he's been to a Super Bowl. I mean, he's one of the highest paid players in the league against a guy who everyone wrote off and thought was going to be a backup, and now's in the running for the MVP. I mean, that should be Darnold's all day.
Yeah, that'd
be
I think.
Robbery.
That's absolutely crazy.
I think they just want to give Burrow something. They're like, man, this guy's been the best QB all year. We've got to give him something, but we can't give a guy who missed the playoffs the MVP.
Passing, leading the touchdowns.
Just give him Offensive Player of the Year or something. Surely. I mean, they'll probably want to give that to Barkley. That's like the non-QB award, right? Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
The awards are just a joke, aren't they? It's just
crazy.
There's too much precedent.
But yeah, so that ends up being a 2-3 week, which is pretty tough considering
the
two of
Broncos
those beats were OTs.
Yeah, look, the Broncos and the
Falcons.
The Falcons. I feel like I was definitely on the right side of the Broncos, and I feel like I was on the right side of the Falcons. The Commanders just killed all the Falcons' momentum in that third quarter by just going on the longest drive of all time, nearly. And then, as I said, I just made a clear blunder with the Carolina pick. I shouldn't have made that, and I paid the price of costing me a winning week. So, look, definitely hard done by with the losing week, but we live and we learn.
Yeah. And then on my side, I was with you on the Chargers, with you on the Broncos, with you with the Lions. So 2-1 currently. Then I had the Bucks. So that made it 2-2. And then my final one was the Rams minus 6.5, which was a loss. So I end on 3-2. Like the Rams one, that I have no idea how that offense has gone from putting 40 on Buffalo to just as like a complete drop off over the past couple of weeks.
Stafford just looks so good sometimes and looks awful other times.
Like their defense won the game, obviously, with those late picks that they got of Kyler. So yeah, I end up losing. I think they only won the game by like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, the Rams, they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're very dangerous.
No.
Cooper Kupp's not the same player he was. Stafford's just too inconsistent. A lot of people will still back them just because of the experience that they've done it. McVay, they've been there, they've done it before. But
they still have weapons like Puka and stuff. Like
but
he
only
produces.
They just don't have the juice, I don't think.
Yeah. So
depends who they verse though.
Yeah, and then I go 3-2, and yeah, that's our BS picks for the week. After week 17, I'm 27-18, and you're 23-22.
Jeez, close to 500. Need a good week this week.
I mean, yeah, surely we can find some good juice.
Tell you what's going to be a tough week, though.
It is.
Going to be a tough week. Just need a 3-2 week this week.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go. I'll study the all 22.
Oh, yeah. Let's see on Friday who's resting, who's not. And
true, yeah. I mean, we might not know until, like, game day. Like, we know how the NFL is.
Very true. I reckon first time, let's make a transition to some college.
Yeah, before though, just want to ask, who's your current NFL MVP?
Current NFL MVP?
Who are you giving the award to?
Josh Allen.
You giving Josh Allen?
Yeah, I'll give it to Josh Allen. I think top 3 is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Saquon Barkley. It's harsh not to give it to Saquon, but yeah, we already discussed whether he plays or not, gets that record for most yards. But Allen, he's been more consistent. The problem with Allen in the past has been his turnovers. He's stopped that this year. I think he's only had like 6 for the full season. The team got locked in the 2 seed. They went 13 and
13-3,
what's their record? 13-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, he's been pretty consistent.
Beat the Chiefs. Only one to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, only one to beat the Chiefs at home and stuff like that. But yeah, I give it to Allen. Like Lamar's there. Like Lamar's probably having the best season he's had, and he like better than those other 2 MVPs that he's won.
Definitely,
so it's tough to root it from him as well. But yeah, I feel like they'll probably give it to Allen. I don't want it to be like this, but you can't give it to Lamar Jackson because that makes it 3, and he hasn't done much sort of like playoff wise, like anything late game, like no Super Bowl.
And Lamar's got great stats this year, but he hasn't been consistent. Like there's been some games where he's played poorly. He's played poorly against some big teams.
Yeah,
his record is not as good as only just winning the division. A few things going against him. Like I think in order to win 3, it would have had to be he's been the best player all year. For me, Josh Allen is the MVP because I'm taking the MVP literally as most valuable player. And who is Josh Allen throwing to? I mean, he's doing this. He's everything for that offense.
Year, to be honest,
he's everything for that offense, right? Like he is running, he's passing, he gets the first downs when they need to. The defense has been hot and cold all year, not been great. If you take Josh Allen out of that team, what's their record? I mean, they drop substantially. You can make the same argument for Lamar, but I'd argue easily that Lamar has a better supporting cast, especially offensively, than Josh Allen does. And I think he's got a better record. He's put up close to the same stats as Lamar. He's never won it before. I think he's due. I think he started this year with a head start. As you said, it's not how the award's supposed to be. You should take this year on its merits rather than taking previous years into account. But at the end of the day, everyone does. And I think it's Josh Allen's this year. He's been the best player, and I think he deserves it. And I think he deserves it on his resume. his style of play just screams MVP for me. It says he does it all. He carries that team. He's the heart and soul, and I think he's deserving, and I hope he wins it.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else NFL related before
let's go. College football.
Jeez, not something that we usually touch on.
Disclaimer: we have no idea what we're talking about, so
yeah,
take it with a grain of salt.
We're definitely just playoff watchers, right?
Well, I mean, I've watched a few games, like 5 or 6 games throughout the year, right? You know,
I mean, probably more than me, to be honest.
Yeah, I've watched a couple. And I listen to people what they say about college. Like, I'm around it, but I can't say I like understand.
Yeah.
Everything. Like, I know more about the big teams, but even some of the big teams I've never watched. Like, I'm a plastic in terms of I only watch the big teams, like the Alabama, Georgias, Texas, Oregon, those sort of teams. But no, it should be a great week this week, with the big one obviously being Oregon, Ohio State. I mean, probably the Super Bowl for the college football.
Yeah.
I think it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock for us.
It would be, I think it's like the mid game, I want to say.
That's the second last one. So I think Georgia is the 12 o'clock game.
Yeah.
So do you want to... So Alabama's not in one, right? They're just playing a bowl game against Michigan.
Playing a bowl game, yeah. It's only so you've got Boise State versus Penn State, which is the
heavy favourite.
The Wednesday, I believe.
11:30 Wednesday, yeah.
And then you have 3 Thursday games. It's Arizona State versus Texas, Oregon versus Ohio State, and then Georgia and Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Notre Dame.
So I'm looking at Penn State, heavy favourite against Boise.
Yeah.
Texas, heavier favourites even against Arizona State. You'd expect them to win.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've heard a lot about Penn State's defense. So I love a good defensive team.
Yeah, you'd expect
Boise State have that insane running back.
Yeah, but a good defense should be able to shut him
defense.
down.
Like when you're one-dimensional like that, it's so easy to sort of get like locked down by a team, especially with such good defense. So
the thing with college football, though, it's so much about your emotions as you start the game. Like as we saw last week or 2 weeks ago at Ohio State, if you come out in college football with the right mindset, with that aggressiveness, it goes most of the way to win the game. More than in NFL. NFL, it's more about your plays, your schemes, executing, not getting too high or low. Whereas in college football, a lot of it is using your emotion and deploying it in the right way.
Especially because they're so young.
So that's what I'm saying. Even in these big games, there can be upsets because if the other team comes out, if the favourite comes out a little nervous, a little timid, and the underdog comes out, we've got nothing to lose. The coach revs them up the right amount and gets them coming out firing, and sort of takes the other team off guard and makes it a bit more mixy, a bit more just sort of a dogfight. Well, anything can happen. But as you said, a good defense typically travels. So you'd like Penn State, you'd like Texas. They're just a bigger name in those two games. So you'd expect the two favourites to win, but you can't. In these games, you can't. You said they're young players. You can't discount an underdog winning
for sure.
No,
so I would.
We'll go the two faves. Lock in there.
Penn State and Texas for sure.
I don't know enough to say which one could get an upset. Let's say I haven't watched Boise or Arizona State, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets an upset.
Yeah.
Hope they don't though, because I want the best teams to be in the top 4. But yeah, and then you move to the big one, Ohio State, Oregon.
Ohio State.
Can't believe.
I feel like this will be such a close game.
Oh, surely. Oregon beat them earlier in the year at home. And obviously we know home field plays a big role. This is at a neutral ground, but I think more Ohio State's fans will be there than Oregon fans.
Yeah. Ohio's coming off a
big win.
But
the thing was, they came off a loss against Michigan. A super emotional loss where the flag planting at the end.
Yeah,
you knew they were going to come out hot as you could possibly be in that game. And they just blew them away early. Surely Oregon are ready for that. Now, on the flip side of that, Oregon hasn't played for a while. They had the first week off. They've had like 3 weeks off. They've been sitting there watching Ohio State blow that team away. Yeah. As a young team, how are they going to be able to get their energy up for this? Now, the positive of that is they have plenty of time to plan, plenty of time to scheme. They're well rested. They're ready to go. Young guys, they don't really need to rest that much. But you know what I mean? The coaching staff have plenty of time to prepare.
They got the up on them from the last match.
It's basically, for me, it's going to come down to the coaching staff. Are they going to be able to get this team up and ready after that long break? And for me, the answer is yes. I think I've listened to their coach in a few interviews and a few podcasts, and he seems like a smart dude who knows what he's doing. And I reckon he'll get this team ready. I think it's pretty crazy that Ohio State are the favourites. I can understand why, because they look so dominant in that last game, and Ohio State's just Ohio State. But for me, I think Ohio State, if you remember the last game of the regular season, they almost lost. They went to like that 8 OTs because they just did not play well in that game. Yeah. I think it could be a similar situation here. I reckon Oregon win. I reckon, as you said, it's probably a close game. It's going to be a massive game. I can see a lot of points being scored. But I'm with Oregon on this one.
I think that's probably the smartest play is to take the points if you're going off the handicap with Oregon.
What is the points?
I think it's -2.5 to Ohio.
Plus 2.5 to Oregon.
Plus 2.5 to Oregon, yeah. So, laying the 2.5 with Ohio, it's
risky.
Yeah, a bit risky. I do think I kind of like Ohio to win it, but I think it will be like really close, like 1-2 points.
Right. So you're on Ohio.
So I'm going to go Ohio. I love good defensive teams, and they do have a good secondary and stuff like that. Oregon's linebackers, I want to say, I think they're probably
just good everywhere.
Some of the
they're
best.
a solid team. I mean, they're well coached. They've got players everywhere.
So Ohio, getting after Dylan Gabriel, trying to put pressure on him. So that's what they're going to look to do. That win over Tennessee, like, I loved watching that game. That was so fun.
Yeah. Especially because you were on Ohio State.
Yes, it was. It was a money line play.
Yes.
But I'll go Ohio to win. But I would say taking the points with Oregon is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one?
Georgia and Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
I watched a few Georgia games this year, and they really haven't looked that dominant as previous years. I think there's a bit this year that Georgia's sort of riding a bit off their legacy. I think Notre Dame's a smart play here. I'm going to back with them. Don't have too much football sort of reasons why, but I just think that Georgia have been a little overvalued because of their history, because of their culture, and I think that their run ends here, and I think Notre Dame is their time, and they get the job done.
I'm with you with Notre Dame.
Nice.
Once again, defense. Defense is pretty key
Georgia
for them in Notre Dame.
Right?
Sorry?
Georgia have pretty good defense, right?
Yeah. So it's going to come down to which one's the better one. And like Georgia, I watched that game when they versed Alabama, and Alabama just got the wood on them like really early. There's been a lot of sort of criticism around Carson Beck. Obviously, he's not going to be playing this game, so they're going to have a backup in there. So I'm just going to take Notre Dame to upset them.
My concern here, though, is that Georgia's been here, done it. You know what I mean? They've been in the big games, and as we said, in college football,
their coach,
there's a risk that Notre Dame could come out and be a little flat and timid, and Georgia come out dominant and physical and put it on them, and it's like, oh no, Georgia come out and go up 13-0 or something. You're like, wow, what have we done?
Yeah.
So that's definitely a possibility, but hopefully, I haven't watched really much Notre Dame, but hopefully they're ready, they're primed, they're emotionally on song, and they can come out and match Georgia's energy early. And if they can do that, I think they go a long way to winning.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Penn State, Texas, we're split on Oregon and Ohio, and we're the same with Notre Dame.
So you're taking all the faves. I mean, Notre Dame, Georgia there.
No, Notre Dame is
They're $1.90 each.
Yeah, but where's the points with?
That's dead even.
Oh, it's dead even.
It's gone to dead even.
Oh wow, it was like Georgia minus 1.5 before.
It's a pick 'em right now.
I mean, I'll still call them an upset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll give it to you. I'd love to, if anyone's watching, I'd love to know which one's the better one to bet. The underdog, the handicap, the plus.
Yeah.
Because surely Boise or Arizona State keep it close. Like, there's no way both those are blowouts.
Surely Boise, right? If they have such a good run game, but like, as we said, it's just so one-dimensional.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like backing.
I don't know what their quarterbacks.
I feel like the Texas one is like one where all the pressure's going to be on Texas. They're a big school, big name, a lot of hype around them. There'll be a lot of pressure on them to win this game and win well. And that can sometimes backfire, where you get a little tight, you get a little nervous, and then the Arizona State sort of like, well, we've got nothing to lose, and they come in and cause an upset. So I don't know. I don't mind that. I think that one's like 12.5, that Texas and Arizona State. Yeah, 12.5. So honestly, I might parlay that with the with Oregon, and then do Penn State straight up. That gives me 470. And then Notre Dame, Georgia, I don't know. I kind of could do an alternate handicap with that one and do +7 on Notre Dame, just because, again, I don't want to can out a team like Georgia.
Yeah.
I think then they're a bit overvalued in terms of their play, but I still feel like they could have an extra week in them. It's not till next week that they get found out as not being talented enough. Yeah. Whereas this week, their emotion, their culture, their defensive attitude, their aggressiveness, and their sort of Kirby Smart as a coach could carry them over the line this week.
Yeah.
So that's one where I'm not confident betting against them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like we did all right there for our first college break.
Held our own. I mean, we could come back being 0-4, and
who knows?
But you know,
Boise win, Arizona win.
Yeah. Hey, look, I said that's possible, right? I gave it its flowers. I sort of covered all my bases there. Nice hedge.
I mean, there was no like upsets in the first round, right?
Nah,
yeah. So,
but in the first round, there was a few teams that was just like in there because they won their conference and stuff. Like, it was a bit of a whitewash, but. Yeah, this week should be good, and then we're down to the Final Four, which is where the playoffs typically were. The last few years, where it was just the 4 teams going at it. So typically the the 2 semis of the previous would be on New Year's Day, so our second.
Okay,
so,
cool.
I mean, the playoffs are right. I mean, it's going to last an extra few weeks, which you've got to factor in. You know, these playoffs, these college teams aren't used to playing into mid-January. So that's going to be, if you make the final, I don't know when the final game is, but that's probably going to be
21st, I think.
Typically it's over in like the 10th or 12th of January. So that's going to be a long slog for these college players that are used to ending, most of them in December, if not very early January.
Hey, I'll take the extra football. I do not mind it at all.
It's good times for us too.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the, it's like the NFL, one of them's very early, but by the time you get to the prime time, the Georgia one, that's right prime time for us, middle of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Even that Ohio State Oregon game, I mean, that'll be the most watched game, college football game of the year, I'd say. Probably the best game. Hopefully it lives up to the hype, but that'll be a must watch, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. But nah, I reckon that's good. Anything else you want to touch on?
Not really. I mean, United suck, apart from that.
United do suck.
In relegation battle.
Thankfully.
United in relegation battle. City finally got a win. Liverpool looking dominant.
Yeah. We had 2 draws back-to-back and then finally put some wins together.
That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, not much else going on in the world of sport. Big bash game tonight, but I don't think anyone really...
Everyone will be out partying. It's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, right? New Year's Eve. Woohoo!
2025.
We're getting old, mate. Honestly, I didn't realise it was New Year's Eve until I woke up today and Saf said, "Today New Year's Eve?" Well, yeah, it is. Amazing. It's just like, as you said, it's just another day.
Yeah, 100%.
But everyone out drinking, drink responsibly, have fun.
Yeah, 100%. But no, I think that's it. I reckon let's wrap it up.
We'll see you in 2025.
Sounds good.
Happy New Year.
Peace.
Peace.